For 7 years, I paid for my sister's medical degree. When she graduated, she took me to court over our grandfather's inheritance. Your only job is to sacrifice. That's your place in this family, she said. During the inheritance hearing, I handed the judge an envelope. The judge simply looked at my sister and burst out laughing. My name's Roger Cole. I'm 33, the oldest kid, and the one who fixes messes nobody wants to admit exist. I work as a private investigator. Skip traces, background checks, insurance fraud, the occasional spouse who isn't working late. I notice small things. I listen for the pauses people hope I miss. In my family, that made me the mop. If something broke, I glued it. If someone cried, I paid. 7 years of that. 7 years paying my sister's tuition, rent, exam fees, scrubs, textbooks, with stickers still on the plastic. 7 years telling myself when Nora becomes a doctor, it will all have been worth it. I learned to live lean, instant noodles, cheap boots, a car that sounded like a drumline. I did side cases for cash. My mother called me resourceful when she needed something and obsessive when I needed a boundary. Dad called it being a man, which in our house always meant being a wallet. The night everything shifted started in my mother's kitchen. Fake marble counters, refrigerator humming like a nervous throat. I'd come by with a bag of groceries because she texted we could use help with dinner. I was chopping onions when my sister swept in. Fresh white coat folded over her arm like it was a cape. Take tomorrow off, Mom said, not looking at me. Nora needs you to drive her downtown. White coat ceremony. I already planned to go, I said. I cleared my afternoon. Nora, open the mail on the counter like she owned the surface of the earth. You'll be on time, right? Don't pull your PI thing where you go ghost. I've never missed. She didn't look up. You miss a lot, Roger. You just hide it by paying. It stung, but I kept chopping. Onion tears are useful like that. Then my mother added almost gently, like sliding a knife under a knot. Your only job is to sacrifice. That's your place in this family. I set the knife down. My job. You know what I mean? She said, eyes soft, voice hard. You're good at support, not at being center stage. Let Nora shine. Nora finally looked at me, a small clinical smile. It's not that complicated. You were made for the background. Something tilted inside me. My hands were steady, but the floor felt slightly wrong, like a photo hung crooked. I wanted to say 100 things. I said nothing. I wiped the board, bagged the onion halves, and told myself, smile tomorrow, clap for her, swallow it. She has earned this. Later that same week, Grandpa died, and the group chat lit up like a siren. Nora, we'll do the inheritance hearing after my residency match. Timing matters. Mom, Roger can file the papers. Me? Okay. That was the first mistake, saying, okay. The second was believing I still understood the rules. Grandpa Henry wasn't rich. He had a paid-off house, a little lake cabin, a modest investment account, and a 1958 Omega watch he'd wind whenever he told a long story. He also had a soft spot for me, and a harsh one for lies. He once told me, nobody can fake the sound of an honest no. I didn't get it then. I do now. When I turned 26, I started paying Nora's tuition because our parents couldn't at this time. Dad's back had given out, but his golf swing hadn't. Mom had stretched thin her savings, though the living room got a new couch set and a chandelier that made the dining table look short. Nora got into a good medical school. Everyone cried. I looked at numbers. It started with a semester, then a year, then 7. The loans were in your name for now, because the rates are better and we'll refinance when Nora is licensed. I paid what financial aid didn't cover. I caught overdraft charges, cell phone bills, and an apartment deposit that bounced because the landlord is shady. I told myself I was investing in a person, not a fund. The family chat read like a corporate memo written by people who never admit fault. Mom, Nora is our priority. Dad, we're all making sacrifices. Me, I've got this semester covered. Nora, thanks. Sometimes thanks came with a heart emoji. Sometimes it came with a list, books, lab fees, exam prep course. The good course, mine expires on Tuesday. Work scaled. I took surveillance gigs that froze my fingers. Sat through 8-hour stakeouts with stale coffee. I learned which pawn shops would give me decent cash when a client paid late. A crooked landlord tried to pay me in free rent for a month to scare an ex-tenant. I declined. My rent was cheap enough and my spine was not for sale. At family dinners, I ate quietly and listened to plans I was not included in. Mom talked about Nora's future practice, and Dad made jokes about me catching cheaters. Nora tapped her phone and said things like, "I don't have time to sleep, much less budget." I would nod, then slide my debit card across the table when the check came. Then came residency match day. Balloons, confetti, photos with captions like, "Proud of our future doctor." I was behind the camera. In the middle of it, Mom took my elbow and whispered, "By the way, about Grandpa's will. Be reasonable." Reasonable how? You know, Nora made real sacrifices. She said, she deserves the house. She'll need the equity to start her life. The will isn't read yet. I said, please don't be difficult. The will was read on a rainy Tuesday in a conference room that smelled faintly like toner. Grandpa left the lake cabin to Nora and me jointly for peace. He left the house to me, the watch to me. The investments divided 60-40 THS in my favor in recognition of services rendered. There was a letter with my name on it and a line that made my throat burn. To the one who paid the bills, he did know. Mom's smile stayed glued on, but her eyes changed. Dad asked the lawyer how flexible the language was. Nora made a joke about buying a decent coffee machine for the cabin, then looked at the numbers and went silent. The next day, there was a new group chat without me. I saw the screenshots later. Mom, Roger will give up the house. Nora, he loves control. He'll make it about the watch. Dad, we'll handle it. Our boy is sentimental. What I did get was a call. Nora, no. Hello. Hey, you should sign a quick claim on the house. It's cleaner. I'll pay you out when I'm settled. How much? We'll figure it out. Do the right thing. You don't even want a house. I do. I said, you live like a ghost in a one-bedroom with a safe under the bed. I want the house, I repeated. Her voice went flat. Don't be selfish. You know, Grandpa wanted what was best for me. He wrote it down. I said, silence. Then, you're obsessed with rules because you don't understand love. That one cut, but I still didn't say no. I said, let's talk after your graduation. 2 weeks later, I got served. Nora had filed a petition to contest the will and a separate claim for restitution of family support funds allegedly owed to her because I had unduly influenced Grandpa during a period of cognitive decline. The language sounded like a TV show. The attached evidence looked familiar. Photos of me leaving Grandpa's house with a folder. Screenshots of me texting Grandpa. Can I swing by later with forms? Copies of checks I'd written with tuition in the memo line recaptioned as proof of control. I called Nora. She picked up on the second ring court. I said, you'll be fine. She said, you always land on your feet. You're suing me. She sighed. Don't be dramatic. It's just the cleanest way. The judge will understand. You can afford a lawyer. This isn't personal. It's entirely personal. She raised her voice for the first time. You don't get to make this harder. Your only job is to sacrifice. That's your place in this family. Click. I stared at my phone, then at the envelope on my desk, the one with 7 years of receipts, bank transfers, loan statements, and one thing she hadn't thought I'd ever keep. I slid the envelope into my safe. I sat down, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself be angry all the way through. The inheritance hearing was set for a Thursday morning. I wore the only suit I own, the one I reserve for funerals, and the rare client who pays in person. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Mom smoothed Nora's hair like she was still 8. Dad told me, we can settle this like adults. Nora stayed on her phone, then glanced up and said, try not to be theatrical. I'll do my best, I said. Inside it was with benches, a sleepy clock, a judge with half-moon glasses, and the demeanor of a man who has seen every family rip itself apart over a house with peeling paint. Nora's attorney sounded expensive. Mine was a friend, Eva, who knew me back when I was just the kid who could find anyone's locker combination. Nora went first. Her voice was calm, clinical. She framed it as protection. My brother isolated our grandfather in the final year and inserted himself into financial decisions. He conditioned support to gain leverage. She used phrases like undue influence and fiduciary breach. And I watched the judge's eyebrows not move at all. Her attorney held up printouts, photos of me at Grandpa's, text logs that made me look like I controlled his schedule. None of it was fake. It just wasn't the whole. Then it was my turn. Eva asked me where my money went for 7 years. I said to Nora. Eva asked me why. I said because she wanted to be a doctor and I believed in her. Nora snorted softly. Mom glared at me like I'd insulted God. Eva nodded to me and I reached into my briefcase and pulled out an envelope. Thick, ugly, rubber-banded like a brick. I walked it to the clerk. Financial records, I said. Every transfer with memos, every rent payment, every exam fee. The judge accepted the exhibit. And one more thing, I said. I pulled a second envelope, smaller cream paper, yellowed at the edge. I'd found it in Grandpa's desk the week after he died, tucked under his chessboard. It was addressed to Nora. I had never opened it. I had considered burning it. I handed it to the bailiff. Your Honor, I said, this is a letter Grandpa left for my sister. I didn't read it. She should. Nora looked confused for the first time all morning. She took the letter with careful fingers, broke the seal, scanned the page, and froze. Color rose to her cheeks. Eva continued like we planned it. We also submit Exhibit C, she said, sliding a stack of screenshots. These are messages from Miss Cole to her friends and our mother, in which she wrote that keeping tuition in Roger's name would be safer for me, because I can always guilt him if something happens. There's more. She also wrote after the will was read that she intended to scare him with a lawsuit, so he'll give up the house. Nora's attorney objected on foundation. Eva laid the foundation. The judge flipped through then, turned to Nora. Counsel, do you contest authentication? He whispered with Nora. We reserve your honor. Noted the judge, said dry. I wasn't finished. Your Honor, I said, may I read the last line of my grandfather's letter to me briefly? It says, Roger, if anyone ever tells you your job is to sacrifice, tell them no. Nora rolled her eyes. He wrote things like that all the time. He liked his little aphorisms. The judge looked at her. Miss Cole, would you like to summarize the letter you just opened? She folded it once, twice. It's private. You understood, he said. But you filed. This is discovery by any other name. She swallowed. He wrote that the house should be Roger's because Roger doesn't ask for things and I have been given enough. The room went so quiet I could hear the fluorescent light buzz. Mom whispered, that's not what he meant. The judge turned to me. Mr. Cole, I pulled out my phone. One more piece of context, a video. It was a 30-second clip from my grandfather's kitchen. He's at the table, the watch on his wrist. He looks at the lens, then at Nora, who is off green. His voice is clear. Sweetheart, I'm proud of you. When you're a doctor, you'll pay Roger back every dollar. We'll write it down if it helps you remember. I paused it. Time-stamped, I said. 2 years before he died. Nora said, that was a joke. He joked like that. We joked as a family. The judge leaned back, eyes on the screen, then on the letter, then on Nora. He exhaled through his nose very slowly. Then he did something I have never seen a judge do. He looked at my sister, smiled just slightly, and burst out laughing. Not unkindly, more like someone who just heard the world's most brazen lie delivered with a straight face. Counsel, he said, composing himself, your client's position is untenable. Unless she wishes to proceed to trial and pay everyone's fees for the privilege, I suggest you take the next 5 minutes to talk about dismissal with prejudice. Also, Miss Cole, he added softer, your brother isn't a bank. Nora stared at the table. Mom reached for her hand and missed. Dad looked old. The laughter stopped echoing. The gavel didn't fall because there wasn't one, but something in me did. It was a clean crack of a rope finally snapping. We settled in the hallway. Settled is generous. Eva drafted one page on a bench while a bailiff ate a muffin 3 feet away. Nora withdrew everything. She agreed not to contest the will. She agreed to stop contacting my clients. Yeah, she tried that too, sending concerned sister emails about my stability. In exchange, I agreed not to pursue sanctions. Mom tried to spin it. Families fight. This was a misunderstanding. I looked at her. You told me my place is to sacrifice. She flinched. I was upset. You were honest. Nora wouldn't meet my eyes. She folded Grandpa's letter, so small it looked like a secret you could swallow. You humiliated me, she said quietly. You sued me, I said. That video was the only reason you couldn't lie your way through me like you've done since you were 12. She stiffened. You think I'm a villain. I'm tired. I worked so hard. So did I said, but only one of us sent the other a bill for it. We stood there with our baggage claim tickets for a relationship that never arrived. Dad suggested brunch. Eva made a face like she'd smelled something dead. I said I had to get back to work. I drove to the house. It's not big. The front steps sag. The porch light switch crackles. I sat on the floor of the living room with the watch in my palm and the keys biting my thigh through my pocket. The silence felt different. Not empty, just unoccupied, waiting. That night, I put the 7-year spreadsheet into a folder called Closed. Then I did something reckless. I ordered a pizza with extra everything. No coupon. I turned my phone face down. The next weeks were quiet, like the city put a blanket over me and told me to breathe. I swapped the safe under my bed for a bolted one in the hall closet and moved the case. Files there. I replaced my car's serpentine belt that had been complaining for months. I took exactly one new client, a woman whose ex had taken their dog and vanished. We found the ex 2 states away. We got the dog back. The woman cried into the dog's fur, and I didn't bill the last hour. People who knew my sister sent messages. Some were angry. How could she? Some were soothing. She stressed. My favorite came from an attending who'd supervised her on overnight call. She's brilliant, he wrote, but she's never had to apologize. Nora tried a different tactic. She showed up on my porch with coffee and eyes that said, I'm ready to be the good sister if we pretend none of this happened. I'm not doing amnesia, I said through the screen door. I paid you back, she said small. No, I said you dropped your invoice. Same thing. I didn't open the door. You can come in when you understand the difference. She left the coffee on the step. An hour later, it was cold. I poured it into the sink. Mom texted holiday plans, like a project manager sending a calendar invite. I didn't respond. Dad called and left voicemails about starting fresh. I saved one of them, so I could hear his voice when I missed the version of him that existed in my head. The house started feeling like mine. I found Grandpa's screwdriver set in a drawer next to pennies and rubber bands. I fixed the sag in the front step. I replaced the porch light with one of those motion sensor kinds. Not because I needed it, but because cheesy security comforts me. Occupational hazard. On a Tuesday, I opened a savings account labeled Cabin Fund. I texted Nora one line. Let me know when you want your half of the cabin expenses. She replied with a heart and nothing else. Fine. I also called the loan seerer. With the inheritance portion I'd received, I paid off the loans that had lived under my name like barnacles. Watching the balance hit zero felt like cutting off a weight I'd carried for so long I forgot it wasn't part of me. Work changed in small ways. I stopped saying yes to cases that paid cash but felt like poison. The ones where a landlord wanted all the dirt you can find. I took more custody runs and a few elder abuse cases. Turns out I'm good at listening to people who were trained to think they don't deserve to be believed. A month after the hearing, I got an email from Nora. Residency is brutal. I'm on nights. Can we talk when it calms down? I typed, no. Then I erased it and wrote, I'm not available to be your reset button. We can talk after you send me a plan to repay what you promised, Grandpa. I attached a spreadsheet, columns, amounts, dates, interest at 0% because I wanted to be able to sleep at night. She didn't reply. 2 weeks later, a transfer appeared. $500 memo first, then $300 the next paycheck, then nothing for a while, then $1,000 after an extra shift. No apology, no explanation, just money with lowercase memos like, sorry, late, and got hit with car repair. It wasn't enough to fix everything. It was enough to prove one thing. She knew. Mom sent a group text on my birthday with balloons. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to the lake cabin alone. I read Grandpa's letter again. I wound the watch and let it tick in the quiet until the room felt full of it. I said out loud to no one, no. It felt like a clean word. Not cruel, not petty, just honest. And here is the part one didn't expect. Life after no is louder. Food tastes better. A stupid joke from a mechanic in a grease-stained cap can make you grin all the way to the parking lot. Friends, the ones you kept making excuses to not see, become anchors, not distractions. I stopped being the man who lives on hold. I started answering my own calls. I thought closure would be a big speech. Instead, it was an ordinary afternoon with a small sound. The mail slot clacking. An envelope slid onto my rug. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $8,000 and a note in Nora's handwriting for the spring. I'll keep going. Nothing else, no hearts, no love, not an apology. A ledger entry that admitted what she denied. I stood there for a long time. Then I put the check in the cabin fund and made myself a grilled cheese that would make a nutritionist cry. I ate it on the porch while the new motion light clicked on and off every time a moth tried to own the night. People still tell me I'm so strong. They mean you kept paying even when it hurt. But strength isn't carrying a house full of other people's furniture on your back until your knees lock. Strength is putting the furniture down and locking your door. Strength is saying no and not explaining it until your throat bleeds. My mother still sends group texts. Sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't. My father called last week to tell me the lawn at their place needs work. I told him there's a number you can call for that. He laughed like he thought I was joking. I wasn't. We ended the call politely like neighbors. I see Nora sometimes on post-shift mornings when she stumbles out of a hospital with eyes like paper. Once she saw me across the street, she lifted a hand. I lifted mine. Not a truce, not a war, something else. A boundary that holds. If you are hoping for revenge, I don't have it. The judge's laugh was enough. The rest of it, the quiet house, the watch ticking, the dog case that ends with a wagging tail, the spreadsheet named closed, does the work better than any speech ever could. Here's the moral plane. I'm not a wallet. I'm not a background character. I am not a job description written in someone else's handwriting. I am a person, and my answer is no when no is correct. And here's the promise I made to myself on the cabin dock at sunset. With the watch steady on my wrist and the water moving like breath, I will never again let anyone tell me my only job is to sacrifice. That isn't love. That's theft with manners. I'm done paying to be allowed inside my own family. I have my own keys now. The door opens for my